For the city of Houston, it was supposed to be as easy as winning the World Series. The success of one team permeating throughout the others, turning the city into a new era title town. However, cheating, mismanagement, and even ego appeasement set this front-runner sports city to fall apart. Houston, we have many problems. But the story of Houston does start off with some positivity. Now, the Astros, it was a historic year for them in 2017 with a year full of highs. They would clinch their first AL West title since moving from the National League, and a win against Boston in the latter part of the season would give them their first 100-win season since 1998. They would go on to finish the year 101 and 61. This would be their second highest win total in franchise history. Now, this team was littered with a couple potential Hall of Famers and some perennial MVPs, including Justin Verlander, Jose Altuve at second base, third baseman Alex Bregman, also starting pitcher Charlie Morton, as well as outfielder George Springer, amongst others such as outfielder Lance Riddick and also Michael Brantley. Now, in the postseason and their regular season run in general was historical. In the playoffs, the Astros will match up against the Boston Red Sox in a divisional series. In Game 1, Jose Altuve will become the 10th player in MLB history to hit 3 home runs in a playoff game. Justin Verlander will win 2 games starting on the mound in the series, and Houston will close out Boston 3-1. In the American League Championship Series, the Astros would need 7 games to take down the New York Yankees, despite the Astros jumping out to a relatively easy 2-0 lead. Verlander would be named the series MVP with 2 wins and an ERA of 0.56 and 21 strikeouts. This will be the team's first pennant since joining the American League. In the World Series, the Astros would face a LA Dodgers squad, and it would take another 7-game series to pull it off. A back-and-forth series with Houston would take control in the second game, 7-6, with late home runs from Springer, Correa, and also Jose Altuve. In that bottom of that inning, the Dodgers would return with 2 homers as well, and this would end up being the most home runs scored within extra innings in the World Series game. In Game 5, the Astros will fall behind multiple times, only to rally to take a 12-9 lead in the 9th inning, but the Dodgers would respond with their own small rally. But after 5 hours, the longest World Series game on record, Alex Bregman would hit a walk-off RBI and would seal the Astros' fate, and he would be named the World Series MVP. Houston would have a historic run, recording the highest number of runs scored with 896, the highest batting average for a team with 282, and also on-base percentage, 346. Second baseman Jose Altuve was not only named the regular season MVP, but also co-postseason MVP along with pitcher Justin Verlander. Altuve was also the year's batting champion with a 346 batting average, 284 hits. He also led the AL in that category, and he also had 24 home runs and 84 RBIs. In the playoffs, he would have a 310 batting average, a 388 OPB, and also a slugging average of 634. He would also have 22 hits, a franchise record for the playoffs, and 7 home runs, as well as 14 RBIs. The Astros would have 6 All-Stars in 2017, including Altuve and George Springer. Now, also in this time, they would also have another World Series won in 2018. This time, they would come up short in 7 games to the Washington Nationals. Now, this is where the drama comes in. The rumors and the speculations have been they will follow the team for at least a couple of seasons. But things will come to the light at the end of the 2019 playoff run. An article released by The Athletic using testimony from former Astros pitcher Mike Fierce would describe how the club will post up in the stands of center field with video cameras to film the opposing catcher's signals. Players and/or members of the staff who are watching the live feed from behind the dugout would then relay audio cues to signal each incoming pitch, usually by banging on trash cans. A 2020 investigation will reveal that the Astros would use their camera system to steal signals throughout the 2017 regular season and even the playoffs. They will even use this in part of the next season as well. As a result of the investigation, Houston was fined $5 million and had to give up their first and second round picks for the next 2 years. Manager A.J. Hinch was fired and suspended for a year after landing a gig. Well, he would then land a gig in Detroit. General Manager Jeff Luhnow was also suspended and fired and has yet to find a job. The bench coach at the time, Alex Cora, who was then serving as the Boston Red Sox manager at the time of the investigation, he was also implicated as pretty much the one to call the shots during the sign stealing process. He'd also be fired from his job as well. So, since the investigation wasn't until 2020, of course, there was still some more winning to be done by the Astros. Of course, like I said, they will win 103 games in 2018, returning to the playoffs, this time to lose in the American League Championship Series to the Red Sox. Of course, like I said, they would go back to the World Series in 2019. They would lose. However, they would have 3 straight 100 win seasons dating back to 2017. And they would also win their 3rd straight divisional title. And pitcher Justin Verlander was a Cy Young Award winner for the 2nd year in a row. That means the best pitcher in the league. Houston would also have the most All-Stars in the league in that year, 2018, with 6. Now, there was some regression going into the 2020 year, and they would finish the regular season at 29-31 with the reduced schedule due to COVID. However, they would be the first team below 500 to win a playoff series, beating the Twins in 2 games in the wild card matchup. They will also move on to beat the A's in the divisional round 3-1. So there was some success for that team despite the drama and what had resulted from this. And mind you, the league was very adamant about their dislike for the Astros. Fans in every city away from Houston would boo. Pitchers from all opposing teams would hit these batters intentionally. So again, but despite all this, they would still find some success. However, they will lose in the championship series to the Rays after, going behind 0 games to 3. They would rally, but they would still lose in 7 games. Over the time, though, the Astros have lost a few pieces just through time. Some of those being outfielder Josh Reddick, pitcher Garrett Cole, who found his way to New York, as well as pitcher Charlie Morton and pitcher Justin Verlander. Now, the Verlander situation is a little bit different. He's still on the squad, but he's dealing with injuries. He will not be playing. He had not played last season, and he will not play another full season. He's already 30-plus years old, so there's only so much time he has on his timetable as well. And then recently, their World Series MVP, George Springer, has recently signed with the Toronto Blue Jays. So as we speak, that team is slowly, becoming unrecognizable. There's a few key pieces there. Now, as for the Texans, they wouldn't have as much success. Despite winning their division multiple times and wild card matchups, they failed to get past the divisional round of the playoffs under former head coach Bill O'Brien. However, they would clinch back-to-back 10-win seasons in 2018 and 19 for the first time since 2012. This core roster consists of quarterback Deshaun Watson, 12th overall draft pick in 2017. He also led the league in passing yards last season. He also has a career passing rating of over 100. Wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins was a first-round draft pick in 2013, although he has not been with the team since 2019. A 5-time Pro Bowler and a 5-time All-Pro receiver. Defensive end J.J. Watt, an 11th overall pick from 2011, 5-time Pro Bowler, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and a 2-time sack leader. Now, there were some missteps along the way, particularly for O'Brien. In 2018, he would trade the team's best offensive lineman, Dwayne Brown, to Seattle for a 3rd and 2nd round pick in 2019. Since then, Watson has been sacked almost more than any other quarterback in the league, despite bringing in left tackle Laramie Tunsil via trade for Miami. The Texans would finish 11-5 in 2018, and on the surface, things seemed to be okay. Deshaun would have over 3,700 passing yards with a 26-9 touchdown to interception ratio. The running attack was also top 10 in the league. However, the offensive line failed to protect Watson, giving up 62 sacks that year. They would start 0-3, but would have a franchise record 9-game winning streak. This is also a record in the NFL for number of wins for a team that started 0-3 as well. They would lose their Week 16 matchup to the Eagles. However, a Pittsburgh loss to New Orleans ensured them a playoff spot. Next week, they would beat the Jaguars to clinch their 4th divisional title. That season would come to an abrupt end, however, in the wild card round with a 21-7 loss to the Colts. That year, they would have 6 Pro Bowlers. The next year, 2019, the Titans would regress slightly, finishing at 10-6, but they would also repeat as AFC South champions. Changes would arise as GM Brian Gaine was fired right before the season, and defensive end Jadeveon Clowney, a 3-time Pro Bowler and 2-time All-Pro defensive end, was traded to Seattle as well for 2 players and a first-round draft pick. Houston will lose their 3rd straight season opener to the Saints, but will win their Week 2 matchup against the Jaguars. In Week 16, they would clinch their 4th divisional title in 5 seasons with a win over Tampa Bay. In the playoffs, they would rally from a 16-0 deficit to beat the Bills in the wildcard round 22-19 in overtime, but will lose on the road to Kansas City 51-31, despite having a 24-0 lead in the second quarter. Now, in 2020 was when things would fall apart for this team. O'Brien's 7th season under the helm would see him also assume the role of general manager. Things did not start well, with the team taking a 20-36 loss to the defending Super Bowl champions Kansas City Chiefs. The team was progressively imploding, with O'Brien expressing his grievances with DeAndre Hopkins, and that becoming a mutual, very negative situation, leading to one of the most short-sighted trades in NFL history, in my opinion. A 2nd-round draft pick and a running back, David Johnson, was traded to the Texans for the services of DeAndre Hopkins. They would then trade a 2nd-round pick for wide receiver Brandon Cooks. The Titans would end up losing 3 more games, leading to O'Brien being relieved of his GM and coaching duties. Romeo Crennel would be installed as the team's interim head coach, and the team would go 4-12. Since 2020, both J.J. Watt and quarterback Deshaun Watson has criticized Houston's front office and their ownership. This includes Janice and D. Cal McNair, of course, offspring of Bob McNair. Watson has addressed his concerns about his future and interim GM Jack Easterby as well. Also, on top of that, he's worried about Houston's ability to assemble a winning team around him. He has since opened himself up to be potentially traded. He's interested in teams like the 49ers and the Jets. As far as J.J. Watt is concerned, he's definitely aired out his grievances. He feels sorry for the Watson situation as well. But there hasn't been a call for him to want to be traded. But who knows what an offseason with this team might do to him. Who knows, really? Finally, that leaves us with the Rockets. Now, this organization would do all they could to keep their star James Harden happy, including signing him to a 5-year, $80 million deal within 4 days of trading for him from the Oklahoma City Thunder. He would reward the Rockets immediately with a historical performance that same day in a 105-96 win over the Detroit Pistons, becoming the first player in NBA history to post 37 points and a double-digit assist total in his debut with the team. If this seems familiar, he actually had a similar stat line in his debut game with the Nets, so he's definitely a fast starter. He would go on to score 82 points in his first 2 games with the Rockets, being the first player to do so with a team since Will Chamberlain back in 1959, when he scored 79 points with the Philadelphia Warriors.
That February, he would go on to have his first career triple-double versus the Charlotte Bobcats. That year, Harden would finish 5th in scoring with almost 26 points per game, 5 rebounds just about, and almost 5 assists as well. He was the 5th player to score 2,000 points in a season. On top of that, Harden was named to his first All-Star team that season, and he was a part of the All-NBA third team. The Rockets would finish with a record of 45-37 and an 8th seed. However, they would lose to the Thunder in the first round of that year's playoffs. Now, the next couple of seasons, mind you, Harden would see continuous individual records being set, such as going 22 of 25 from the free throw line. That is a franchise record. He'd also be the 3rd player in Rockets history to reach 3,000 points in 120 games. Harden was also in MVP talks in 2015 with multiple 40-point games. He also would have 2 50-point games. This was a first in Houston history. He would also have 4
Monster Slam! Crossed over Guterich and then hammered it on Valanciunas. Targeted front row.
Yeah, the two ladies in the front row.
Pocket pass and a beaut from James Harden. Clint Capella. 8 straight for Houston.
This pass between Harden's legs, a few possessions.
First round of the 2014 playoffs, thanks to a send-off shot from Damian Lillard, and will reach the conference finals in 2015, but will fall to Golden State 4-1. In Game 4 of that series, he would score a career-high 45 playoff points. However, in that Game 5, he would just have 14 points on 2 of 11 shooting. He also had 13 turnovers. So look for this to be an occurring theme for him as well, kind of falling apart when things start to, when the pressure starts to mount as well, when it's crunch time. So that's another pattern I see here. And in 2016, he would see even more personal regular season success. Now, Harden, he was the first Rocket to finish with back-to-back 40-point games since Moses Malone in 1982. Head coach Kevin McHale, however, would be fired after the team would start the season 4-7. Harden, though, he would finish the month of March with 457 points, 152 rebounds. He'd also have 152 assists and 102 rebounds. He's the first player to do this since Oscar Robertson in 1967. He is also the 3rd player next to LeBron, Michael Jordan, and Oscar Robertson to average 29 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds in a season. The Rockets as a team, however, would finish the year just at 500 with a record of 41-41, and will lose to the first-seeded Warriors in the first round 4-1. After the season, Dwight would then dip off to Atlanta. Now, in this time frame, it's important to know that he was signed, that being Harden, he was signed multiple, at least 2 contract extensions, bringing his total earnings to over $226 million. In 2017 and 2018, the Rockets would win 55 games and 65 games, respectively. Before the 2018 season, they would trade Sam Dekker, Paul Beverly, Lou Williams, DeAndre Liggins, and also we got Deron Hilliard, Kyle Whittier, and also Montrezl Harrell, as well as a first-round draft pick for another superstar, Chris Paul. They traded him to the Clippers, of course. Harden and Paul would lead the squad to their 2nd divisional title in 3 seasons. Despite coming up short in 7 games to the Warriors, the Rockets would rework Harden's contract. Of course, like I said, getting him upwards of $220 million. But it's also important to note, with all of Harden's regular season success and all the eye-popping numbers he's been known to put up, he does struggle in the playoffs. In 2017 versus the Spurs, in Game 5, he would record his first playoff triple-double, but he also would just have 10 points going 2 of 11 shooting, and would basically foul out with 3 minutes left in that Game 6, leading to the Rockets being eliminated from the playoffs. In 2018 versus the Warriors, in Game 6, he would go 10 of 24 from the field, just 4 of 12 from 3, and he would also have 9 turnovers. In an infamous Game 7 where the Rockets would win 27 straight three-pointers, he would go 2 of 13 from 3, and just was overall a bad shooting night for him. Now, with that being said, 2018 would also see the Rockets win yet another divisional title. And they would have a regular season record of 53-29. And Harden would continue to be that beast in the regular season offensively. He would have 32 games with 30 points or more, second in NBA history right behind Wilt Chamberlain. And at this point, he was a two-time MVP. He also would finish as a finalist yet again in 2018. The Rockets will beat the Jazz in the first round of the playoff, but will lose to the Warriors yet again in the conference finals, this time in 6 games. They would also have a 2-0 lead in that series as well. 2020 will see even more playoff utility despite trading Chris Paul to OKC for Russell Westbrook. With that failing, Houston would make a last-ditch effort to acquire recently healed John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. With a lineup consisting of emerging Christian Wood at the center, Daniel House, Eric Gordon, and PJ Tucker, this would not be enough to appease Harden, finally demanding a trade early this season. He's been seen clumping, showing up to the preseason overweight, antagonizing players, and bashed them all in the media. He was finally granted his request and was traded to Brooklyn. So as of now, Houston is the city of a tainted baseball title and a superstarless NFL and NBA team. The bridges burned between Deshaun Watson and possibly even TJ Watt, and even players like Andre Johnson, turned a promising Houston Texans team into a pariah. Bob McNair was worried about the inmates running the facilities, but it's the COs and the warden, meaning the coaching and the GMs, that destroyed his team. And the Rockets catered to their cash cow, their golden child, investing millions, installing new offensive strategies and coaches to highlight all of his abilities, made innumerable roster changes, all for Harden himself to come up short in numerous situations and run away for the easy money in terms of championships, presumably in Brooklyn. Oh yeah, Houston, y'all got many problems.
Alright, this has been another special edition by your boy, yours truly, and I'm signing out for tonight. If you guys want to show any support, please like and subscribe for notifications. This is your man El Jamal, signing out for now.